Ever since its first episode aired back in April of 2017, The Handmaid's Tale quickly became one of the most talked about shows in recent history, rivaling the likes of Stranger Things and Game of Thrones. And with its selection of incredible cast members and attention to detail, it's no wonder that the 5th season of the franchise is beyond anticipated. But what are some of the secrets and Easter eggs hidden within the show you might have missed on your first viewing? Well, whether you're a fan of the social commentary of the series, or just want to know more about the details the showrunners hid in plain sight, stay right where you are, as we're about to explore some of the greatest secrets kept by the show. So strap yourselves in and grab a magnifying glass, as things are about to get interesting. But before we get into it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe with the notifications turned on, so you don't miss out on any of the new videos we post. Number 1. The design of Offred's room. As fans of the show will already know, The Handmaid's Tale is based on the best-selling novel by Margaret Atwood, who created this dystopian and totalitarian world in which fertile women are stripped of their rights and designated as property with the intention of giving birth to children. We follow the journey of Offred, who is brilliantly portrayed by Elizabeth Moss, who slowly introduces us to the horrors that the handmaidens face in the New World Order of Gilead. But what you may have missed as a fan was the detail that was actually put into the living quarters of our leading lady, which was all the work of production designer Julie Berghoff. According to Julie, Offred's room was supposed to be created with nothing more than the bare necessities needed to survive her time as a handmaiden, but as she read the script of the show, she wanted to use her own talents to truly bring the world to life. The type of people who would essentially imprison women to bring up the birth rate of a civilization are innately evil, after all, and would most certainly enjoy torturing those they had already captured. This is why Julie made sure to include some references to Offred's previous life, put there by her captors to remind her of the things that she can no longer do. We see that she has a writing desk, for example, which clearly refers to her previous position as a book editor, as well as her love for the written word. What makes it so dastardly, however, is that women are forbidden to both read and write in the New World, making the desk nothing more than a useless accessory, which serves only to torment Offred further. If you look closely at the set, you'll also notice there is an outline and remaining fixtures left over from where a mirror used to hang. From this, the audience immediately assumes that the captors didn't want Offred to be vain, or women in general, that is. And then last but not least, Julie decided to bring it all together by ensuring that there was nothing within her room that Offred could use to hurt herself, and no locks on the doors to ensure that everyone always had access to her. In other words, of moss. The most distinctive thing about Offred's room is that there are no locks on the doors and there's nothing in there that you could hurt yourself with. So that's a political message as far as women's rights are concerned. With just the design of the bedroom, Julie was able to tell the viewer the story of Offred before it even started, which is an incredible task to achieve, and this is definitely something that further adds to the context of the show when fans finally stumble upon it. Number 2. The specific color palette used. When it comes to the use of color on set, first viewers of the show don't notice much other than the stark red cloaks of the handmaidens, as well as the white bonnets that they use to cover the rest of their heads. And while this is clearly a reference to Mary Magdalene as the remorseful sinner of the Bible, as explained in the show, color had a much more important role to play in general. According to Berghoff, she wanted to support costume designer Anne Crabtree's period costumes, while keeping the feel of the present day, with color being an incredibly important tool in this regard when it came to the set design. As a result, she went ahead and chose color palettes for the important characters of the show that both added to their stories and wardrobes. Offred's room, for example, was painted in an off-white color, which is often used to decorate insane asylums as found throughout the world. In other words, the use of this color designated the room as the place where Offred was supposed to feel safe, but would eventually bring about her own demise through her use and abuse by her captors. The room always had the feel of a sanatorium of sorts, and now we know it was designed that way on purpose. Serena Joy, on the other hand, who is portrayed by the magnificent Yvonne Strahovski, is always decorated and surrounded by rich blues. This is not only seen by the outfit she wears, but also by the rooms that she calls home. According to the other designers on set, blue was chosen as her designated color in reference to the colors associated with the Virgin Mary. She too is trapped by her labeling, and as she starts to notice that the system is not just against some women, but all women in general, we slowly see that she starts to shed her reliance on the color. In the words of Berghoff herself, "It was an opportunity to work with these beautiful colors in the caste system. I basically almost designed each room specifically for that character." Who knew that the color palette was so important to the progression progression of the story. It's definitely something to keep in mind when viewing the show for a second time. Number 3. The grocery store was handmade. Slowly but surely, the viewers of the show were introduced to the various sets of Gilead, with one of the most impressive and oddly ignored ones being that of the grocery store. We have all experienced what it feels like to be in a grocery store, after all, so seeing our favorite characters sauntering around to collect their much-needed items of importance wasn't exactly the highest point when it came to the runtime of the show. But look a little closer when these scenes flash past, and you'll see just how much work the set designers put into the creation of this similar but drastically different environment. When discussing the store in an interview, Julie said the following: "The grocery store was probably one of our hardest sets because we fabricated every single label there. My graphics team painstakingly designed hundreds of labels and then applied them to certain things. Remember, reading is outlawed for women when it comes to Gilead, so these labels had to be made in such a way that allowed the characters to shop without breaking the law by reading. It's a strange concept that seems simple at first, but think of all the items you have in your own local store and how much work it would take to relabel them without using words. This insane amount of detail creates an unsettling environment, which is then contrasted against the brightly lit grocery store which, if not for the odd labels, would look almost certainly like the ones we currently visit in the real world." According to Berghoff, the modern look of the grocery store was pertinent to the story, as it reminds the viewers that although things might look as though they're happening a long time ago, the context is actually the modern era. It's a stark reminder that this world of tyranny is nothing more than a few women's rights amendments away, which really brings viewers out of the context of the show, allowing its message to bleed into the real world we all live in. The set department worked their butts off to make this message one that continues to be brought up across all 4 seasons of the franchise. And it's a good thing too, as we don't believe that the social commentary of the show would be easy to spot otherwise. Number 4. Serena's stolen art. According to the pitch of The Handmaid's Tale, women in the world of Gilead are considered to be nothing more than second-class citizens. This is why they are unable to own or appreciate artistic things. There is, however, an exception to this general rule, which can be seen by the lifestyle led by Serena Joy. Serena considers herself to be a bit of a watercolorist, who has a love for the representations that other artists have given to nature. Because she is the wife of Commander Waterford, she is given the ability to own as much art as she wants, which is why we find her home filled to the brim with expensive Monets. At no point in the story is it made obvious, but according to the set designers, this art is stolen from the households of women who can no longer appreciate it due to their second-class nature. It's also a way that women higher on the ladder are reminded by the men of the society that they are lucky to have the position that they do. This prevents them from seeing just how bad things have gotten in Gilead. So when Serena surrounds herself with artistic beauty, she is not only showing her vast privilege on account of her being Commander Waterford's wife, she is also showing her disregard for, or more likely ignorance of, the rights that have been stolen from her fellow women around her. And luckily for us, Serena does appear to make a change for the better as things go on. Art can keep you preoccupied forever, after all. Number 5. The design of the ceilings. Last but not least, Berghoff spoke about the importance of the ceilings her team designed for the use of the show. The first time a viewer is ever directed towards the ceilings of a room is when Alfred spends a solid few minutes looking up whilst deep in thought. Knowing full well that this was going to happen, Julie and her team set about studying Italian Renaissance ceilings to spark some design concepts for the ceilings represented in the Waterford home. In her own words, "I had a lot of fun with the ceilings on this project. I usually don't pay much attention to ceilings, but there's a whole scene in an episode where Alfred is looking at the ceiling." Berghoff also made sure to add the designs of a map of America to the commander's ceiling, which served as a dartboard of sorts for him to use for planning purposes. It also emphasizes the community's rejection of technology, which is a story in its own right. What do you think of the secrets of the design of The Handmaid's Tale? Be sure to let us know in the comments section down below.